Alright guys, today we're going to be working on taking our Poplet that we created earlier and actually starting to create our Choose Your Own Adventure story. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get my Poplet opened up so that I can look at it while I'm working. So I go to the Poplet website, log in. If I get logged in, I'm going to go ahead and open another window or another tab. And I actually want it to be a separate window completely, so I'm just going to drag it out so that they are not connected to each other. That way I can look at both of them at the same time. Alright, so in my Poplet I need to open my Washington DC adventure up, and then I am going to come over to this other window, and I'm going to shrink these down just so I can see both of them at the same time. And I'm going to go into my Google Drive. So if you click on where it says apps, or actually if you're on the Chromebook, there's probably a link to Google Drive and you just want to choose Google Drive, or you can always go to drive.google.com. Alright, once I get in there, I want to create a new slideshow. So I click on the new button, choose Google Slides, and it's going to open up. First thing you want to do is title your presentation. And you don't have to worry about sharing it with me right now. You're going to do that through Google Drive, or through Google Classroom, so you don't have to do that right now. Now I'm going to go ahead and type in my title on this first page. Alright, so that's my title page. I now need to make another page, or another slide, with my first event. And if you remember, my first event was flying to Washington, D.C. So I'm going to push the plus button to add another slide, and I'm going to title this one, Fly to Washington, D.C. And here's where I would write write my actual story part about it. Alright, so there I have written my little story about flying to Washington, D.C. Now I can come back and I can change the font on this, I can put in pictures. Right now I just wanted to kind of get my ideas down on the slide. So now I need to put in slides that are going to go to the Capitol building and to Colonial Williamsburg. So I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to push the plus for a new slide, and I'm going to call this one Colonial. You chose to visit Williamsburg. And down here I would write some information about Williamsburg. I also need to make a slide about visiting the Capitol building. You chose to visit building. And again, I would add some text here about it. So now I need to go back to this first slide where it talks about flying to Washington, D.C. Flying to Washington, D.C. And I need to put in buttons down here for the reader to choose whether they're going to the Capitol building or Colonial Williamsburg. So I'm going to take and create two text boxes. Let me go ahead and make this bigger. I need to create two text boxes, one right here that says Capitol building, and one over here that says Colonial Williamsburg. Okay. Now I want those to stand out a little bit more, so I might make them a little bit bigger. I might center the text. And let's see. Change some fonts around. Let's go with impact. Make it a different color. I feeling blue. And now I have this one the way I like it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And then I'm going to click on this little paint roller right here, which is going to copy the way that it's formatted. So it's going to copy the font type, it's going to copy the size, and it's going to copy the coloring of it. So I click on the little paint roller, and I come back down here and I select Colonial Williamsburg, and it will automatically change it to the same style as the Capitol building information. And then I can just go ahead and align it in the center. I think I need to move them up so that they're equal. There they are. So now I want them to be links to these two slides right here. So the first one, I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to come up here to where it says link, insert link, and I want to link it to a slide in this presentation. So I push the arrow here, and let's see if I can get it. Let's try that again. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to zoom out just a little. Let's go to 50. All right, just so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to highlight Capitol Building, and I want to click on the link, the little chain link right here. And it says I could link it to an outside website, which is not what I want to do. I want to link it to the slide over here that's about the Capitol Building, so slide number 4. So I'm going to click on slides in this presentation, and I'm going to scroll down, and I choose slide 4. You chose to visit the Capitol, and I click apply. All right. Now it has an auto font color, which we can fix later. And Colonial Williamsburg, I need to link that one to the one about the slide about Colonial Williamsburg. So again, I highlighted it. I chose the chain link up here, and it's a slide in this presentation, so I pushed the down arrow, and I chose which slide I wanted it to be. And I clicked apply. And again, it automatically changed the color here, which we can fix. So now once I'm at Colonial Williamsburg, I'm going to write my little blurb. Alright, so here I've written my little blurb about Colonial Williamsburg and visiting the governor's palace and seeing all the shopkeepers. I saw them building or making bricks and shingles, and then it says check out some of the pictures on the next slide before you move on. So I need to put in a slide between Colonial Williamsburg and my Capitol building in order to have the pictures that I want to include. So I'm going to come over here where I see all the slides. I'm going to click on the one about Colonial Williamsburg, and I'm just going to hit enter, and it's going to put in this blank slide for me. So now I need to find pictures. So I'm going to come up to the top and click insert image, and I'm actually, if you have your own pictures, go ahead and use them. But for this, I'm just going to search the web, and I'm going to type Berg. And let's see. I like this one of the Capitol building at Williamsburg. So I just dragged it onto the screen. I like this one of the governor's palace. So I'll pull it out here. So now I need to put in my links to my two choices that I had after Williamsburg. And in order to remember those, I'm going to go back into my Poplet, slide over to Williamsburg, and my two choices are visiting Thomas Jefferson's house or going for a drive in the mountains. So I come back in here, and just like we did on the last screen, I'm going to type those two things in. And now I need to create the slides that those two are going to be linked to. So I need to, so I come back in here, and underneath my Capitol building, I'm going to hit enter again twice. And the first one is going to be Thomas Jefferson's house. And the second one, oops, I did that out of order. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the order. Go for a drive in the mountains. All right, so I come back in here to my Williamsburg pictures, and I'm going to choose this about Thomas Jefferson. And again, I'm going to hyperlink it. So I click on the chain link, and it's a slide in the presentation, and it's the one that's called Visit Thomas Jefferson's House. It's way down there, so I need to zoom out again. And I can come back in here and play with the font some more later. So now let's watch my presentation. I click present. And if I click on Williamsburg, it's going to take me to my Williamsburg slide. And I can push again. And now if I click on Drive in the Mountains, it takes me to my Drive in the Mountains slide. Now I need to then continue making links after that, but I'm not going to do that right this second since I'm almost out of battery. But if I go back in and I watch this again, so we put in the Capitol visit, and remember I added this extra slide in there. So this link for the Capitol here is still linked to this slide, even though I added in that extra slide in the middle. So let's try it out. If I click present, it takes a second to load my page. And if I click on Capitol building, it's still going to take me to that slide about the Capitol building, even if I added that extra slide in the middle. So I'm going to click exit now. And that's your job right now, is to start getting your story into your slides. Again, don't worry about sharing it right now. We'll take care of that later. But you will end up sharing it eventually, probably next week. And if you have questions, make sure to ask.